You see on the board the title of the lesson and the scriptures that sometimes don't get preached very much about. I'm glad Kendall mentioned in the prayer. I'm also glad you asked God to help me my remembrance. My remembrance is not as good as it used to be. Ephesians 6, 1 through 3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. I said, this is right, to obey your parents. Move over to Colossians chapter 3 in verse 20. And it kind of reinforces why this is right. Verse 20, children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing unto the Lord. When children obey their parents, it's well-pleasing to God. Now, before I start, I want to make it perfectly clear that I'm not speaking directly to the children in this congregation, because to the best of my knowledge, we've got an exceptional group of young people. Amen. But sad to say, the rest of society is not quite so lucky. And it's even sadder to say that sometimes this problem exists to some extent in the church today. It may not be a rebellious attitude, but it might be one that's involved in things that are not good for them, not good for the church. Now, the command that Paul preaches here in Ephesians 6, for this is right, gives the very highest motive that can remind anyone the importance of obeying the commands of the Lord. Why do we obey God's commands? Because it's the righteous thing to do for us and children. He expects it. He expects the parents to be righteous. He expects the children to be righteous. Now, we know that there are children that are not of age yet, that may not be as dutiful as we would want, but that's because of their age. But Christian children should pay special attention to Ephesians 6, 1 through 3. With the teaching of 6, 1 through 3, children is used to refer to those that are still under the control or the government of their parents, not those of age. Now, the time will come, Lord willing, when all children will be grown out of their parents' home, have their own families, their own children, and they're responsible for how they live their lives. Now, that's not to say that once you're out of the home, you shouldn't honor your parents. To some extent, obey them. Your parents, they've been there and done that. Take from their experience. And the phrase, obey your parents, carries a very huge duty and a responsibility. Some commentators say that this refers to all children. Some say only to children who are Christians. And I believe that if you're under your parents' roof and old enough to know what from right and wrong, this command applies to you. Now the day is going to come, Lord willing, when these young people have their own families and their own children, that they need to raise them up according to the scriptures as well. There are a number of reasons why children are, not should, but are commanded to obey their parents. One of them is the good order of the family depends on it. Can you imagine the function in the family? How it's going to be if there's constant turmoil and chaos between children and parents. Children need to obey their parents. Parents need to give good instructions to keep a good functioning family. The welfare of the child depends on it. The child is not necessarily at the stage in his or her life where they're competent enough to reason and make good decisions. Now, before you young people roll your eyes at me and say, what? Let me explain. The time comes, and it came to me as a teenager, that you think you're old enough to make your own decisions. Mom, I'm not a child anymore. Up to a point, children do have to make some decisions, but too many times these decisions can be influenced by peers or emotions. Now, hopefully the influence and direction of parents help that child make good decisions when they're in those situations. And young people, the time may come. For some, it will come, depending on where you're at. When you're going to be involved with peers that are going to want you to do things or say things that a Christian child should not be involved in. And if and when that comes, you need to be level-headed enough to know right from wrong and not let yourself be dragged into a situation that you should not be in. Hopefully the influence and the direction of parents help that child make good decisions. Both age and experience would seem to qualify the parent in making wise decisions. Parents, we've been there, we've done that. We've had experiences that these children are going to have to possibly go through. We know how we handle those decisions, right or wrong. We need to help our children make good decisions that are not going to allow them to get involved in things they shouldn't be involved in. You've heard the expression, and it is true. There is no substitute for experience. You can tell somebody something all you want, but until they experience it, they're not necessarily going to know what you mean. Situations that children might find themselves in, parents may have and probably were involved in similar situations. Been there, done that. Another expression that's true. Children need to learn from them. And finally, the government, as it were, of the home is similar to the government of God. There is a hierarchy, a protocol that's followed in the church. God is head over all things. The husband head over the household. And this puts a great responsibility on the father. Assuming there is a single parent household, that parent is head of the house. They should not have to hear, Mom, I'm old enough to make my own decisions. Parents are charged with supervising and administering discipline when needed. And that's a harsh word, not only to parents but children. Discipline. Whether we like it or not, we need to have discipline in our lives. Now, all these reasons give strength to the importance of children obeying their parents. And these reasons lead to verse 3, that it may be well with thee and thou mayest live long on the earth. No parent has the right to ask, and I'm not saying this happens here, but I know it happens in society. No parent has the right to ask or command their children to do anything that violates the scriptures. If they do, if those parents say or do anything that violates those scriptures where the children are concerned, they're going to be held accountable for it. No parent has the right to ask a child to lie or to cheat or to steal. And you may sound that's kind of outrageous, but I know it happens. There's some teachers sitting in here today that I know have seen students that are involved in things like that. Parents have the responsibility to set a good example for their children. Parents set the example, for this is right. That means it's righteous for parents to set a good example. It pleases God when parents and children carry out their responsibilities. It pleases God when children obey and honor their parents. If either one fails to carry out their responsibilities, always remember, anything in life that you say or do, God is watching. The society that we live in today, we know is in jeopardy. For the most part, it's in a mess, and it's an evil mess. The rule of law is frowned on by many people. Morals taking a beating across our country. The only way to save society is in the family and instilling family virtues and parental authority and Christian duty from a son or a daughter. This is not going to happen with a great many people in this world today and in our society. But as Christians, we need to do everything we can to help make society a good place for our sons and daughters to grow up in. We know that family is the nucleus, the center of all society. And I'll say this, and I firmly believe it, the father is the head of the household, but mothers are the rock in the family. And we cannot stress how important the family is in society. Society cannot function like it's supposed to. A Christian home cannot function like it's supposed to if that family is not healthy. It says faithful obedience to parents carries a promise. When Moses received the 10 Commandments, one of the commandments he received in Exodus 20 and verse 12, honor. Now remember who he's speaking to. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. This command was given to the people of that time. A promise of a long life in the land that God was giving to them. This promise is not necessarily literal to Christians today, because we know that young people die. But it does show the importance of obeying your parents. Why? Because obeying your parents can lead to a longer life. So how does that happen? Children who obey their parents avoid many of the vices and crimes that lead people to an early grave. Obeying godly parents leads to habits of virtue and good morals that can extend rather than shorten life. And you young people need to extend when the day comes those habits of good virtue and good morals to your children. And it's sad to say, many children die early because they disobeyed their parents. They knew better than their parents. Mom, I can make my own decisions. They fell in with the wrong crowd. They took up unwholesome habits in defiance of parents. And there's one habit today irritates me to no end. And that's to see anybody, especially young people, vape. That irritates me to no end, because once you start a habit like that, it can lead to something else. Faithfully obeying your parents can lead to a long and successful Christian life. But we know that there are exceptions. Some of the nicest and best children die young, and some of the most evil and defiant children live long lives. One of our members who has passed away many years ago had a daughter that was killed in a bus wreck not too far down this road. Through no fault of their own, that young person lost their lives. It does happen, sad to say. Sometimes nature takes over. But if children obey their parents, pay heed to their parents, involve themselves in things that are good for them, there's a good possibility that they're going to extend their life. Godly living means godly decisions, and those decisions are going to influence your life and can make it a longer and happy one. Now, parents, we ain't out of the woods either. Parents have an enormous responsibility placed on them. And we see every day parents who fall short of what God requires of them. Far too many people, parents in our society today, treat their children horribly. Years ago, Dara and I kept a foster girl. Her name was Amber. I believe she was from Newcastle. And Mom and Jim kept her for a while, and then they got it through DHS to let us have her. We had, Darla will remember, I don't, how long we had Amber. Her dad was killed in an accident, and her mother received a settlement. If memory serves me correctly, my remembrance is not all that good. I believe the settlement was somewhere around $1 million. Dara's shaking her head yes, so I know I got that right. Well, her mother squandered that money settlement that she received. And her boyfriend, or I'm sure helped her squander that money, was terrible to the children. And if memory serves me correct, and I'll watch for a head nod, it was Amber and 2 brothers. One brother was older. The mother and the boyfriend would go on excursions to spend money out of that settlement and leave the children at home. The older brother was supposed to be responsible for them. And this boyfriend, the magnificent person that he was, would put a chain and a lock on the refrigerator to keep the children from getting into it. This caused, I'm sure the brothers did this, but I know it's caused Amber to start stealing food at home and hiding it. Memory serving me correct, she did this at our home too. Darlene got another head shake. I got that right. Amber was stealing food and hiding it at our house. And Darlene fed her great meals all the time. She had snacks if she wanted them. But through her past experiences, she would steal food and hide it. Well, eventually, the mother finally regained custody of Amber. Darlene was great to Amber. She had her doing well in school. She did have a little bit of a problem. She was stealing pencils at school. We got that straightened out. But she was smart. If I remember sure she was 11 years old. I didn't get a head nod, so I'm not sure if I got that. But I'll guarantee you could put Amber out on the streets, homeless, and Amber would survive. She was worldly, I guess you could say. She was sharp as a tack. But her mother found it. Darlene worked with her. She'd do real well, and then she had to have visitations with her mother. And it was like everything Darlene did for her, just forgotten. She had to start all over again. And finally, the mother regained custody of Amber, and we don't know what happened to her after that. But parents can treat their children horribly. What would you want to do to a guy that puts a chain on a refrigerator and lock to keep kids from getting something to eat? Now, lest you think I forgot, Ephesians 6, verse 4. And you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. It says, do not provoke them to wrath. Now, this isn't to say that children will always be happy when discipline or correction is handed out. Children's parents don't publicly ridicule. You don't go out in public and ridicule your child. They don't administer severe, and we know what happens, severe and cruel blows to the children. Now, discipline is left to the parents, but it needs to be a constructive and humane discipline. Child does something or says something the parent doesn't like, slap them upside the head. That's not right. Parents should not show preferential treatment, one child over another, if there's more than one child in the family. Sad to say, I've been accused of that with my grandkids. Did have 3 grandsons and 1 granddaughter, and the grandsons accuse me all the time of showing favoritism to the granddaughter. And then they started telling me I was showing favoritism to Tyler because he was the youngest. I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't buy them big, expensive gifts. But seriously, we shouldn't show preferential treatment one over the other. Correction, yes. There are going to be times when you have to correct your children. Abuse them, no. Parents, don't lock the refrigerator. Scott, don't lock the refrigerator so Gwen can't get something to eat. Fathers are mentioned because they're the head of the family. Mothers may be a little bit indulgent with that child. Like I said, the mothers are the rock. That child is going to gravitate toward that mother. Parents need to set good examples and teach their children to respect discipline and good manners at home and at school. Teachers can tell when a child doesn't have very good discipline, if any, at home. Here it comes, Dana. I know, without a doubt, that Charles and Dana and Melinda, all teachers, can tell just by a child's actions and attitudes what the discipline is probably like at the home. Parents need to try to keep them from falling in with the wrong company, and that's not always easy. Parents, you're not at the school with them. So your work begins at home so that they make good decisions when they're at school. Peer pressure, and it's not with children. Peer pressure can be a very strong influence with children and with adults. Parents need to pray for and with their children. They need to bring their children to church. They need to teach them the scriptures. They need to give them the care and the guidance that God desires to make it well-pleasing with Him. Genesis 18 and 19 gives an example that parents would do well to follow. For I know him, that he will command his children and his house so after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And Proverbs 22 and 6 gives some really sound advice to parents. Train up, and we've heard this verse many times, train up a child in the way he should go, or she, and when she is old, they will not depart from it. Which that was rock solid, but we know it's not. Does this mean that the child may not stray someday? It could happen. We've seen it happen. But we need to do everything we can to train that child the way God wants them to be trained. That when they grow old, they're going to treat their children the same way, and they're not going to depart. Proverbs 13 and 1 Now, these scriptures all talk about the son, but we know they apply to our daughter too. A wise son heareth his father's instructions, but a scorner heareth not rebuke. Parents should raise their children wisely. And your children need to pay heed and respect your parents. Your parents love you, and all they want is the best for you. And the respect and discipline at home is going to foster respect and discipline at school and in life. And it's something you can carry on throughout your days. The Lord willing, young people, the day will come when you will see these things from your parents' point of view. Lord willing, one of these days, you're going to be parents. And you're going to remember how you were raised. And you're going to apply that to your children. So hopefully as they grow older, they will stay with the Lord and not depart. The older children, remember this. If you don't remember anything else from this lesson, remember this. The older you get, the more that you're going to see that your parents were not just old fogies, but they were really pretty smart. That happens with everybody. There were times in my child life that I didn't like the instructions I was given. Thought my parents were dumb. Mom, I'm old enough to make my own decisions. But as I got older, I saw that my parents, and when I say parents, I'm saying Jim and Mom. And I'll be honest with you, my dad was an alcoholic, and it killed him. And because of him being an alcoholic, we did not always have a happy home. And I am so thankful that Mom and Jim found each other to help raise us up like children should be raised. So children, one of these days, you're going to see that Mom and Dad were pretty smart after all. And remember, children, everything that you do, everything that you say, remember, God is watching. That's all I've got on this lesson.